Special bulletin.
Hey, Jason, are you going to stop that?
No, because it's a special bulletin.
Well, if you're as young as I am, newscasters used to make that sound.
Yes, that's right. Everybody out there, hello. I am Jason Inman.
I am Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And welcome to Geek History Lesson. This is the podcast where we usually take one character or construct of pop culture and teach you everything you need to know about them in about an hour. But you might have noticed that if you are listening to this currently, if you're listening to this in the future, this will not make sense. This will be a historical document to you. But if you're listening to this currently, the world's quite different right now. A lot of people are locked away at home. A lot of people can't go to work right now. There's a little health crisis out in the world. And we thought, that we have so many listeners out there that are probably, a little anxious, stressed, nervous, however you want to say it. We thought we'd do the first ever Geek History Lesson Mailbag episode, not only to thank you for listening to us for all these years, but also because we've never done a mailbag episode before.
That's right.
So you get the normal Groot episode. That's all we're going to say about that.
Nobody's heard it at the time we're recording this.
I just edited it, so it's going to be pretty fun. So you get the normal Groot episode. But you also are going to get this extra episode. And we had so many questions. We asked you guys at our Twitter, at GHL Podcast on Twitter, and our Facebook, which is what, Ashley?
Facebook.com/Geek History Lesson.
We got so many questions that we're now going to have two mailbag episodes. You're going to get one this Friday, that if you're listening to this the Friday it came out, and then you're going to get one the next Friday. And again, we want to do, hopefully it helps you take your mind off things. Hopefully, it's just a big old hug from, but a 6 feet hug. Social distancing, everybody.
Yeah. We're hugging you with our brains.
From us to you.
Wait. Hang on. I'm going to hug you with my brain. Did you feel that? I just did it.
That's a hugging with brain alarm.
Yeah, there you go. That way, my brain cannot be infected with COVID-19. Neither can yours. And so now we're having a nice hug.
Okay, cool. So here we go. Ashley, let's drop into the questions.
Yeah, and we are going to do questions from the Patreon first. We actually released our call for questions, that really adorable video that we did. We released that to the patrons first, and we're giving them first crack at the questions because they are literally helping us keep the lights on at the Mind University.
Well, and also we just want to say, everybody out there, if you guys are hungry for content, Geek History Lesson Extra has over 200 episodes.
Yeah, so many episodes.
And it's $5 a month over at the Patreon, patreon.com/Jawiin. Advertisement over. Let's get to the questions.
Yes.
These people want some happy, fun, intellectual content.
Okay, question number 1 comes from Adam Grunther.
I know Adam.
Who asks, the chances are non-existent, but if a Marvel and DC crossover were ever to happen, which characters would you like to see interact the most? Fun fact, I think this might have been inspired by the tweet thread that went around that I know both you and I answered. So maybe we'll start with those answers and then see where we go from there. Yeah,
a lot of creators responded to this. And the reason why this became a thing is because, I don't know if you guys know, the very famous, I think in 1996, Marvel versus DC crossover that created Amalgam. By the way, guys, I love the Marvel DC crossover. I bought all those issues. I love the Amalgam universe where they combine the two universes. We will do an Amalgam
at some point
episode sometime because I love it so much. I have all the trades that are completely out of print. But Marvel and DC did that in 96 because they could sort of see that the crash was coming. And I've heard a lot of people out there now. It's funny because at the time we recorded this, there is no announcement of a Marvel or DC. There's really been hardly any response from Marvel or DC Comics right now.
Wait, you mean the two most successful things in a corporatocracy are not going to have a comment?
So it's funny because our answer might be out of date by the time this episode airs.
Look, it is what it is.
But anyways, they should totally do one.
Sure, why not?
100%, because comic books are in kind of trouble right now. So on Twitter, I'll give a new answer, but on Twitter, I said Nightwing / Winter Soldier. Now, I got tweet after tweet after tweet where people were like, what about Red Hood? Look, go write your own damn story. But the reason why I picked Nightwing is because Nightwing has been the spiritual successor to Batman. Bucky is a spiritual successor to Steve Rogers. It makes the most sense. Also, I picked Nightwing because Nightwing has been a secret agent. So has Bucky.
Yeah.
Makes the most sense.
And they both have great booties.
Who'd you say online?
On Twitter, the first thing that I said was I wanted to do a Wiccan and Clarion the Witch Boy crossover because I was give me sad, magical boys. And I want to brag that Nicola Scott approved of my choice. So that means it's a good one. And you can't tell me any differently because she is an actual Amazon goddess.
Nicola asked to draw mine.
Yeah. She'd draw the best butts.
She would. So when she responded, she's amazing. She's a great artist. Go follow her on Twitter, Nicola Scott Art on Twitter. When she said that she would draw mine, I responded with, and that's precisely why there will be a Bucky and Dick Grayson stuck in a Russian strip club dance-off scene.
I'd read it. 10 out of 10. Would read.
Are there any crossovers that you think pop off into your head besides that answer?
A really obvious one for me would be a Zatanna Scarlet Witch crossover. And I actually think because if Scarlet Witch is written well, she can be very interesting. She can be a very compelling character.
Sure.
I think Zatanna's awesome. I think that would be very cool. I would also love to see Adam Strange.
Okay.
And Swamp Thing, because Adam Strange...
Well, they're both from the same company.
Adam Strange and Wolverine, because Swamp Thing was my other choice to fight Wolverine. Because Adam Strange is a man from out of this world, and Wolverine is a character who's very, very grounded, so I think you could do really interesting things with them. It's really easy to pair up characters who are similar.
Yeah.
And I think if I had longer and if I was being paid to do this, the more interesting choice is characters who are opposite or complementary in different and strange ways.
I think a fun one right now, if just looking at the comic book world right now, would be Legion of Superheroes and X-Men.
Yep.
Simply because Brian Michael Bendis and Jonathan Hickman are friends. Mm-hmm. What they're doing with those titles are very similar.
Yes.
So there could be a very easy crossover there.
I would also say my first pitch that I would say, because I know no one is going to let me do it.
Sure.
Give me Mary Marvel or give me Shazam and give me Carol Danvers.
Oh, interesting.
So let's do Captain Marvel and see what that's all about.
I mean, the one that I would love, I would die to write,
yeah.
And it's sort of a little bit of an obvious one, is Spider-Man 2099 meets Batman Beyond.
A great choice.
You know?
Yeah. And that's one that could really work because you could even have that happen and still say it's in continuity because they're both pretty removed from their respective main universe timelines right now.
100%. Yeah. Cool. All right, let's go to the next question. This comes from David A. Skelton, who says, who is your favorite or most interesting of Superman's rogues gallery, not counting Lex?
This is a great question.
Who pops into your head for Superman? Because I know Superman's my guy, and I know you like Superman as well, but take Lex out of the running. Who's your favorite or most interesting?
I think the most interesting is not Lex.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I think the most interesting Superman villain is Bizarro.
Oh, yes.
For me, and Jason has a really great Bizarro pitch, and I know he's teased it on the podcast before.
Well, no, I said it. Actually, if you go over and listen to our great friend Mark Riley's podcast,
you did pitch that.
The Riley Roundtable, we did an episode where we pitched Man of Steel 2 that I wanted to name Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I pitched Bizarro as the main villain. And yeah, I would love to write that script.
I think Bizarro, and then I also think Brainiac. Is a very interesting character. Mm-hmm. So I like Lex, but maybe because Lex is the obvious choice to me, he's not a super interesting character, just personally.
Sure.
But I do I do love him in the Arrowverse. I will say that. So Jason, as our resident Superman expert, blow my mind. Who are the most interesting Superman villains?
I mean, I quite honestly do think that Brainiac is the most interesting. And Brainiac is because...
Great look, too.
I love the version from Superman the Animated Series where Brainiac is tied to Krypton.
You have an action figure of that Brainiac.
I do.
I'm going to make a note and share it.
I do.
Please talk while I write.
It's Action Figure Spotlight. It's from the Superman the Animated Series actual toy line back in the day. There's something about Brainiac being connected to Krypton that sort of almost weirdly makes him Superman's grandpa. And there's a lot of juice to play with that. Another Rogues Gallery character in Superman's Rogues Gallery that doesn't get a lot of attention is the prankster. Now, a lot of people default to Toyman, but I actually think Prankster is more original.
I would say nowadays in a post-Arrowverse world, Toyman is maybe associated more with Supergirl now than Superman.
Was he in? Oh, yes, because
He's Wynn's dad, isn't he?
No, Wynn's dad is the Toyman.
That's what I said.
I am talking about Prankster.
Yeah, but you mentioned people defaulted Toyman, and I was just saying that now I think people would say Toyman's more of a Supergirl character.
I apologize.
That's okay. We're saying the same thing.
I got completely lost it. But no, I think the Prankster is really original, and I think the Prankster is due for a reboot, especially in this TikTok/YouTube prank world.
Ooh, Jason, you're so smart. It's almost like you're a TV writer.
I know. I'm trying to think about some other interesting ones.
Are there any interesting ladies who come to mind for you?
See, that's a tough one.
Because you know me, I'm always got to be here screaming about the ladies.
Silver Banshee is really good in the comics.
Great look.
But I'm also going to default back to Superman the Animated Series. I think Livewire is
another great look.
She was created for the Superman animated series, but she has made her way into comics now.
Her comic book debut is in the Superman Adventures comic book.
I believe so. I used to own that issue.
Because that's the one issue that's more expensive than the rest of the issues in the run. Just like the Harley Quinn one is in the Batman.
I used to own that issue, and then it got folded over because I read it too many times. But I think Livewire is a great concept.
Livewire was also great on Supergirl. Livewire actually is really good in live action.
Look, I'm going to tell you, it's been done several times, but there is an interesting story beat to making Lana Lang a villain.
No, my sweet baby Lana.
So I know how much you love Lana.
My DC girlfriend.
But also as well, I think Darkseid is an interesting villain. Darkseid is more interesting to being Superman's villain than the DC Universe's villain.
Interesting.
But I would say now that I think Darkseid is overused.
Fair. I think that's fair. I would say the same thing about Thanos.
Agreed.
One is a copy of the other one,
there you go.
and it's Thanos.
Let's go to the next question, Ashley.
Okay, Tom Trainer asks, if you could combine one modern comic book artist with a Golden or Silver Age writer, who would it be and why?
Okay, I want to point out something about this question that I think is very interesting. I think it's interesting that Tom said a Golden or Silver Age writer
instead of the other way around, which is how I would have phrased the question.
Usually this question is, who is the modern writer you would pair with the Golden Age or the Silver Age artist? Because Golden Age and Silver Age writers are not as well known. You know what? A big one, just because I would love him to get his due.
Yeah.
Put Bill Finger, the co-creator of Batman, Robin, and the Joker. Give him with Jim Lee. Put him with Jim Lee.
Oh, yeah.
Give him 12 issues.
I'll tell you who I would put with Bill Finger.
Sure.
And Bob Kane. They can both be there. That's fine.
Yeah.
I would put Brent Schoonover with them, previous podcast guest, because
friend of the podcast.
Brent has a really beautiful kind of throwbacky style.
Yeah.
We have a wonderful commission from him of Robin and Superman, and he just draws the hell out of that style of comic book character. So Brent, for me, comes to mind.
You'd want to keep that writer's stories in that style. Like you would want to take that, because to me, I would want to take that Golden Age story, but update it with a modern look.
I mean, maybe, because the first thing that comes to mind for me, I think is a fairly obvious choice. Another past guest, another good friend of the pod, is Mitch Gerrits with with Jack Kirby doing any kind of fourth world stuff. Because, I mean, obviously Mitch and Mr. Miracle, very iconic now.
Sure. There's some other things like this. I mean, I would love to see a Stan Lee / Mike Wieringo Fantastic Four story.
Ooh.
I would love to see a Carmine Infantino / Howard Porter Flash story.
Yeah.
I would love,
I'd love to see, again, this is a very obvious one. Sure. I'd love to see a William Moulton Marston and his wives drawn by Nicholas Scott or Liam Sharp.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because those Golden Age Wonder Woman, go back and listen to our Wonder Woman the Golden Age story. They're awesome and they're weird, and I think they would both suit their respective styles.
The dream one for me would be to get Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster to write a Superman story for who I consider to be the best Superman artist, and I don't think he's been on this podcast. Dan Jurgens.
He has not yet.
Dan Jurgens. We want to get him on here.
We want him so bad.
He's a very lovely man and a great artist. So, okay, cool. Let's go to the next question, Ashley. Is it my turn?
I can read it. Doesn't matter. Wait, who says what turns are? Martin Sanchez asks, if you had to replace one of the upcoming live-action Marvel Disney Plus shows with a show from another Marvel character or team, which show would you choose and what would you replace it with and why?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you here, Martin. I don't know if I know them all off the top of my head. There's Loki.
There's Falcon, Cap. There's Miss Marvel. She-Hulk, Moon Knight.
Is that it? And What If you count What If, but What If is animated.
Loki, WandaVision.
Oh, WandaVision, that's right.
Anyway, we'll just do the ones that we know off the top of our head.
Okay, cool. Do any of those, would you replace any of those?
I would replace WandaVision.
Sure.
And there's Hawkeye.
Oh, yeah. Because that was canceled and then not canceled.
Yeah, and so maybe there's Hawkeye. Yeah. I mean, who knows?
Maybe that should be the title of the show. Maybe there's Hawkeye. Maybe there's Hawkeye.
I would replace WandaVision with actually what I think WandaVision is going to lead to, which is the twins. Because I am way more interested in Wiccan and Speed.
Would you just do Young Avengers?
Basically, because that's my conspiracy theory, is that we're building toward either a Young Avengers television show or the Young Avengers appearing as part of a new Avengers lineup.
I hope so.
And then honestly, I would replace. They're only doing Moon Knight because they don't have Daredevil.
They might have Daredevil.
But unconfirmed.
That's true.
I just don't know anything about Moon Knight, so by default, I'm not interested in Moon Knight.
Moon Knight.
And I know everyone's excited, and we have more requests for a Moon Knight episode than anything else.
I'm going to throw... I've read a lot of Moon Knight.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw something out there to a lot of Moon Knight fans. They're going to get very angry at me.
That's okay.
But it's the truth. If you don't acknowledge it, I'm sorry, my friends. The only reason anybody cares about Moon Knight is because the costume's cool.
And the most recent run, the Declan Shalvey drawn run.
You mean the Warren Ellis run?
Yes, because it's beautiful.
Moon Knight,
I put a lot of that at Declan's feet, actually.
I will go into the coals in this.
Sure.
Moon Knight has some excellent runs. The original run is great. I kind of like what Bendis did with it. The Jeff Lemire run is really good. But Moon Knight has more bad runs than good.
But so I would replace Moon Knight because we don't have... one of those shows should be a Spidey. So to me...
Or a Spidey character, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know legally if it can be, actually.
I mean, who knows? But I can do whatever I want because I'm in charge of this question.
That's a fair point.
So I would replace it with an animated series that I would call Spider-Man 2099. I'd be like, let's do Batman Beyond because it's iconic.
Oh, yes.
Let's do Batman Beyond for the Marvel Universe. Those are what I would replace. Is there anything that comes to mind for you?
I'm still...
I know. You're
putting over Spider-Man 29 over my head.
Which is not to say that I don't think those series will be great, and it's not to say that I won't watch those series.
I would cancel Loki.
Yeah.
I would cancel Loki. I do not feel we need it. Loki's story is over.
They're going to make him a kid and stick him on the Young Avengers like the
I know.
Gillen and McKelvey run.
Which makes me care even less. Who would I replace it with? It's funny because...
Thunderbolts?
Well, remember when we did our episode that, what should Marvel Phase 4?
Yes, with Hal Rudnick?
With Hal Rudnick. And I pitched She-Hulk, so I'm very happy that show's happening.
That could be awesome.
Should be great. I don't know. You know what? I would go, but this needs to be a movie. I mean, my default choice is Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
But Thunderbolts should be a movie.
That would be, I actually think you have a good chance of Thunderbolts happening in the next couple phases. I think so too. Because Bucky's not going to be Cap anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a way that you could give him his own team and make it a little darker.
And I do think they're going to do the twist.
Yeah.
That they're actually villains.
Yeah.
I think we answered that. Good enough.
Also, dear God, please bring Daredevil back.
The next question comes from Adam Roberson, a good pal of ours,
good friend.
Who says, when reading a series that features established characters like Spider-Man, Batman, etc., are you interested in reading stories that shake up the established status quo of said characters, such as what Green Lantern Emerald Twilight did for Hal Jordan, turning him into a drunk, and Kyle Rayner? Emerald Twilight. Oh, excuse me. I got that confused with Emerald Dawn. Excuse me, Adam. Or with Dick Grayson becoming Batman after Battle for the Cowl. And likewise, do you think such status quo could be permanent or should be for a certain amount of time, 5 years to a decade, before it's reverted back before it was? Okay, so I'm going to answer a second question first.
Sure.
Status quos in comic books can never be permanent. Because comic books are always the eternal second act where the story can never end because you always have to set it up for the next issue. It's the eternal soap opera.
And it is the thing where to be honest, every time a new creative team or even part of a new creative team comes on to a book,
it's a new status quo.
It's a soft reboot and it is a new status quo. So I think it happens even more than we expect when we're getting like legacy characters stepping in. And I think just as comics fans, we're so used to it that we don't notice it unless there's an event. I like it when you can do something different. And it's harder and harder to do. I do think comics would benefit if we let things be a little more permanent. If we let characters stay dead, if we let characters get married, and leave them like that for like 10 years.
You can't do that.
I know, but I just...
I would love to live in your world, Ashley, but...
I'm just saying I think comics could benefit from it because through the history of comics, by allowing characters to do that, we get Tim Drake Robin.
Yeah.
We get Jonathan Kent Superboy. We get 100,000 Green Lantern. Like wonderful things when you let consequences exist.
When you let several writers take a shot at a character, the character becomes But
now we live in a world where we get a reboot every 3 years.
It's the same thing as the only reason why Seinfeld exists. Excuse me. The only reason why Seinfeld became one of the biggest sitcoms of all time is because they allowed it to get to its 4th season. And in the 4th season, it became amazing. We just don't live in that world anymore. I'm a little conflicted on this question because I do agree that you should let the status quo stay a little bit longer, but I also know that that's impossible to do. So I would just say this. I think... if you're doing something crazy, because when you're doing something crazy like making Dick Grayson Batman or making Kyle Rayner Green Lantern.
Well, we knew Dick was never going to be Batman forever.
I would say my preference would be that the editors commit to that for 12 issues.
This definitely...
Give us 1 year.
It's interesting because this question actually lives and dies with the editors.
Yes.
More than it does with the creative
because the creators would love to just let their run go and go and go.
Yeah, they would love to let Catwoman and Batman get married if anyone would let that happen.
They would have loved Bucky to have been Captain America for 5 years, but...
Oh, God, I would have loved that.
There was a new Captain America movie coming out, and we can't have that book not have Steve Rogers.
Corporate synergy, branding,
I'll be honest with you. It's answering, do I prefer the status quo shakeup is interesting because sometimes it really works and sometimes it really doesn't.
Of course.
And that also depends on the writer.
But I think all of our favorite events or runs shake up the stuff. Like think about No Man's Land.
Oh, that's a big shakeup.
That's not how Batman exists and the Bat family exists. And we have like Cassandra's introduced in that and Harley's introduced in the main. Like that's a lot of big changes that are happening in what is effectively a war zone. And that's not what you think of when you think of a Batman book, but that book rocks.
But I will say on the opposite side of it, the Jeff Johns Green Lantern run and the Grant Morrison Green Lantern run are basically just, it's Hal Jordan fighting things in space.
Dude, if you are not reading The Green Lantern by Grant Morrison and Liam Sharp, I need you to just like stop.
You're missing out.
I'm putting this in the recommended reading.
Please do.
That book is so good. Second volume just came out. I know you're sitting at home. Go read it.
Yeah, they're both great. It is legit possibly the best book that DC Comics has been putting out for the last year, and nobody's reading it.
I'll also add this. You guys know this because you listen to the Hal Jordan 2-parter. I freaking hate Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
And this book makes sense of him and makes me care about him as a character.
That's right.
Anyway, this has been The Green Lantern Corner. Moving on.
Let's go to the next question here. This is from Bailey Robinson on Facebook, who said, why did you guys decide to start doing GHL and why a podcast versus YouTube or other platforms?
Well, fun fact, this podcast is available on YouTube.
It is.
But I take their point because this is not a live show. We don't do this like Collider does their live shows. Hi, if you're listening.
Look, I'm going to throw this out there.
Feed.
We did record GHLs for a brief period in our third year
because
everybody asked for it.
To, and then I'm going to throw y'all under the bus a little bit.
Well, we don't know if it's these people.
No, but
let's say it's the past listeners.
Made fun of us because we have to, we do a lot of research. We work off notes. We sit here and we read our notes to each other.
A lot of viewers made fun of us because
people didn't think that was terribly entertaining.
They expected it to be completely off our heads.
And unfortunately, that's
so we immediately were like, no more of that.
Yeah,
no more of that.
But why did we decide to do Geek History Lesson? We had talked about doing a podcast for a really long time. And it actually started because one day we were like rolling around laughing about how hysterical it would be and how awful it would be if you were actually Robin and what Robin training looks like.
Yeah, 100%.
And we pitched it around for a long time. We had a bunch of names that were already taken. And Jason was intelligently very adamant that we do something that had education and like a factual value to it, which is why we structured the show the way we did, because we don't have the time to record a podcast every week and do news, and there's other shows that do it way better.
Yeah. We didn't want to do just people talk about the news.
Yeah. So that's how we started.
This is like the closest we've ever gotten on our podcast to that.
Yeah, it really is. And I felt like when we started this in 2014. I felt like when we started Geek History Lesson, everyone had a podcast. But now, like everyone has a podcast.
What an innocent time that was.
Yeah, I know. But it was before Conan invented podcasts.
Well, we know Conan O'Brien invented podcasts in 2019.
But the name was because we had batted around names for a long time. And then I said, why don't we just call it what it is?
No, I said that.
A Geek History Lesson, and so that's what it is.
I was the one to name this podcast, Ashley. Don't you take away my medal.
Yeah, so I think we answered all of those questions, right?
Well, I mean, we always thought about it as a podcast. Mm-hmm. I don't think anything like this would work on Twitch. I don't think it would have worked on YouTube. It just wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same.
There's not enough room for us to be reactive, hosty people because it's research based.
Yep.
This is what it is.
Yeah. Next question comes from Julia King, who says, what's something you miss about living in Kansas? I live in Wichita. Also, has Ashley ever visited Kansas? If you don't know, everybody, I'm from Kansas. I grew up in a small town outside that small town on a farm near Stark, Kansas. If you want to learn more, go back to the episode, I don't know, something on me. The Geekers Lesson on me.
183.
No, it's like it's like 2 something.
14?
It's 2 something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was on our 5-year anniversary.
If you search Geek History Lesson, Jason in minutes, first thing that pops up.
What's something I miss about living in Kansas? I'll say that I like that you don't have to pay for parking everywhere and no traffic. And Ashley has visited Kansas. Ashley, what are your thoughts on Kansas?
I visited Kansas many times. I think Kansas is very beautiful. I think a lot of people I love live in Kansas. And it's funny, Julia, you live in Wichita. I've been to Wichita.
Yes, you have.
And the wildest thing that I remember about being there is we went inside a mall and there was a sign on the door that said, don't bring your guns inside. Mm-hmm. And no offense, but I don't understand why anyone would bring a gun into the mall to begin with. And I found that startling.
Well, Ashley, text Wilderman calling in real quick.
You don't live in Kansas. Your opinion doesn't count.
I own 6 different Payless shoe stores in Kansas.
Do you allow the guns inside?
Of course the guns have to go inside because sometimes
the guns need shoes?
Those leather loafers are still alive.
You know, Payless doesn't exist anymore, right? It went bankrupt 2 years ago.
They still exist in Kansas. My business acumen has kept it alive. Sometimes you got to shoot a pair of shoes. Just saying.
Something that I also...
It's the only way to break them in.
That I also like about Kansas is when you drive there, they have all kinds of different wildlife. So you get to see really cool big birds, like birds of prey and kestrels and stuff.
Have you ever seen Big Bird there?
I've seen lots of big birds there. He's hiking a Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to the next question.
Okay. Brian Aubrey says, favorite comic to movie adaptation and least favorite?
This is a tough one because a lot of comic books
just borrow the title.
Well, yeah, they're not adapted. So, but I think all comic book movies are fair game, I would say. What stands out to you?
Winter Soldier.
Ah, good one.
Again, not a clean adaptation of the Winter Soldier, but a really good condensing for that universe version of Winter Soldier. New Frontier.
Just like New Frontier?
Yeah, which I think is fabulous.
I will say this. I'm pretty forgiving of adaptations because...
Well, it's a completely different medium.
Exactly. And I think the comic fans that get bothered by like, they didn't do the same thing the same way, I think just need to get over it because adaptation is in the word. And I always think if they get the spirit or the emotionality of the character, I'm fine with it. And that's why Spider-Man 2, the Tobey Maguire movie, is, I think, one of the best Spider-Man movies ever made. I think it's really good. I
love Into the Spider-Verse, and it is truly has nothing to do with
it's not
the
even
Spider-Verse
close.
comic book event.
It's an amazing movie. I think Batman Begins is is such a great nailing of Bruce Wayne and how Bruce Wayne thinks and stuff like that. Least favorite. This one's hard.
I mean, least favorite, I think, just comes down to movies that you don't like, right? Because if we're judging them on like movies, like, or whether or not they're like a clean adaptation. Like the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, for example, has very little to do with the Crisis on Infinite Earths comic, as we discussed in our Crisis Club series. But it's a good event, and it's a good adaptation for that universe.
Yeah.
I don't know, Ant-Man, because I don't like the Ant-Man movies, I guess.
Get ready for the tweets. All right, let's move to the next question.
This is from the Contessa at TheaterNot on Twitter, who used our hashtag GHL mailbag. If you want to ask us for future episodes, because we might, make this a series.
We'll see.
Be sure to use the hashtag GHL mailbag. They ask, what are your thoughts about Deep Space Nine's hypothetical 8th season? Did you like what was proposed by the documentary? Jason, I know we have thoughts.
All right, so let's talk about this. So just in case anybody doesn't know, there was a documentary made by the executive producer of Deep Space Nine, Ira Steven Behr, who was the showrunner of Deep Space Nine throughout its run. And he made a documentary about the making of Deep Space Nine and the hypothetical stuff called What You Leave or What We Left Behind.
Yeah.
Great title, because the final episode of Deep Space Nine is What You Left Behind. And in it, part of the selling point was that he did an 8th season, or he got Ron Moore, he got Renee Echeverria, he got Robert Hewitt Wolf, and a bunch of different people to break. They spent a day, they spent 24 hours, and they broke a 8th season, and they did the first episode of that in the documentary. So without going too far into the weeds, I mean, I liked what they did. I think it's interesting that they progressed the show in real time, which I think I understood, but also at the same time I was like, no. But I also understand that all those actors are older. I'll just say this. Everybody that was in that room is a way more talented writer than I am, especially Ira Steven Behr. So to be honest with you, I will watch anything they do.
The only thing that I disagreed with is I don't think Kira would become a Vedic.
You know what? I'm willing to give them episodes to convince me of that.
But I love Deep Space Nine, and I'm sure they did lots of stuff that I didn't think I would have liked. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure they could have convinced me, but that was my only gut reaction, was like, what?
Okay, cool. We're coming down here to the last question, and we announced when we did our video online that we were going to give a winner to just what we thought was like the most interesting question. And Ashley, what is this person going to get because they have the most interesting question?
The person with the most interesting question is going to get a free digital copy of anything Jason or I, individually or together, has written. Whether that is science, Jupiter Jet, super soldiers, or anything else that they want, basically. We will send them a digital copy. Yay!
Yes. So this question comes from, and I'm going to mispronounce your last name, and I apologize. Actually, if you know it, please say
I would say Alex Piperides.
Piperides, yes.
Or it could be Pipe Rides. Who knows? Alex is lovely and also sent us an adorable Christmas card over the holiday season.
Yes. So he said, what line of dialogue in books, comics, movies, or television has either resonated or inspired with you? Now, Ashley, I'm going to put you on the spot here first because I'm trying to find mine because I want to be able to read it.
Yeah.
Do you have an answer to this?
My all-time favorite line from any media is from the movie The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. And it is when Galadriel says, even the smallest creature can change the course of the future. I heard that when I was a child, and it is something that has resonated with me for a very, very long time. And as but a little person, something that I think is very powerful. So that's mine. Are we still vamping?
No, I found it.
Cool.
Mine is, I'm going to read it to you first, and let's see if you recognize. Okay. The earth shook, and fire and wind struck down these giants and threw their bodies in the waters. But in their rage, the gods forgot the secret of steel, and left it on the battlefield. We who found it are just men, not gods, not giants, just men. And the secret of steel has always carried with it a mystery. You must learn its riddle, Conan. You must learn its discipline.
I knew it was Conan.
For no one in this world you can trust. Not men, not women, not beasts. He points to his sword and goes, this you can trust. The Riddle of Steel.
Yeah. I knew it.
The Riddle of Steel, I think, is just such a powerful idea. This idea that I just love that movie. I love Conan the Barbarian, and I just I always think about the Riddle of Steel, consistently. I must know the Riddle of Steel. What is the Riddle of Steel? I just think that is way more elevated than that movie. Well, I love that movie, but it just elevates that movie way above.
Fun fact, I have a sword from Lord of the Rings and Jason has a sword from Conan.
Yeah. Yes, I have the Atlantean
we
sword.
have a video where we showed them in it as well, where someone asked us what our favorite movie prop was.
Yes. That's just one that really easily resonates with me.
Yeah.
So there you go. So Alex, thank you for that question. And Ashley will be emailing you soon to try to figure out.
No, Alex, you have to email me because I don't know what your email address is.
Oh, Alex.
Alex, you have
tell
to
Alex how he's
email
gonna get these
me
books.
at geekhistorylesson@gmail.com or else I can't get in touch with you.
I thought you just Facebook messaged him. I'm sorry.
Well, then I'd have to be his Facebook friend, and I'm not Facebook friending everyone who wins these things.
Oh, boy.
Sorry, nice people. Please email me, tell me what you want, and I will send you a digital copy of that.
There you go. You get a digital copy of Jupiter Jet. You get a digital copy of Science. You get a digital copy of a bunch of other stuff, and even Super Soldiers.
Yeah.
So there you go, Alex. Thank you for those questions. Okay, guys. That's it for this episode.
Yeah.
You know the places. Go subscribe to this podcast on all the places that you usually do. We're on Apple. We're on Stitcher. We're on Spotify. I will tell you this. If you have a friend who is looking for podcasts to listen to right now, please suggest Geek History Lesson to them. You know, we got over 300 episodes, and surely one of them they'll like. They might hate most of them, but I bet they'll like at least one. As always, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jawiin, Jawiin. I've been showing my Superman action figure collection to kind of keep people going through these tough and challenging times. Ashley is over there at Ashley V Robinson on Instagram and Twitter. And on Instagram, I know, Ashley, are you still doing daily Instagram lives?
Yes, I am.
Just whenever. So go follow her on Instagram. You'll get those notifications. Regular episodes are not going anywhere. Don't worry about that. And we'll have another mailbag episode for you next week with even more questions because you guys asked so many amazing questions. So I hope this is fun. Hope this was a light in the darkness and a light in your loneliness. And just know that we are here for you. We are virtual hugging you right now.
Yeah, we are the light of Elendil, your most beloved star.
Ooh, that's nice. Good pull. Why didn't you say that for the quote?
Because it's not my favorite quote.
And GHL intern Cap Brago is here in the studio.
He's
and
fallen asleep. He's so entertained.
He has this message for you. Thank you for that, Brago. It's very inspiring. Thank you so much for listening. This has been the first ever Geek History Lesson mailbag. I am Jason Inman.
Oh boy, I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And thanks for listening.